Beginning a week from today, the Virginia Arts Festival and the Virginia Symphony will join forces to present the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto Festival at the Ferguson Center, at Chrysler Hall, and at the Sandler Center in Virginia Beach. Pianist Olga Kern will join the Virginia Symphony and conductor Eric Jacobsen for all four of the Rachmaninoff Piano Concertos, plus the Paganini Rhapsody. Tickets are available online at vafest.org. I had an opportunity to talk with Eric Jacobsen about the performance of these concertos and asked him, to begin with, whether this kind of presentation, all four of the concertos plus the Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini, are presented very often.
It is incredibly rare that any pianist feels like they can jump into this wild mission. It's almost like running a super marathon, the idea of playing 5 Rachmaninoff piano concertos. And, Olga Kern, of course, is one of the heroes that can do it. And, not only is this a physical feat, but a mental one as well. And yes, I have gotten to do them all before in my life in one weekend, and it was so exciting. And I just can't wait to do it with Olga because I know this is music that she lives and breathes.
Indeed. How do these works differ one from another? Most of us understand them as big, sprawling, romantic pieces, but are there differences within the concertos?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think we have a couple different things to keep in mind when doing these pieces. There's the obvious thing where, if you're a young soloist like Rachmaninoff was when he wrote his first concerto, that, looking to make his mark, looking to say, hey, look at me, I can play the piano so well. So written in 1890 or so, his first concerto. It's the idea of the fascination, the beauty, the virtuosity, but really trying to say, hey, I'm here to stay, and giving himself more or less a tool, something that he could tour around, play with different orchestras, and make a mark with. And I really feel that in the first concerto, you hear like this youthful Rachmaninoff, someone who was really trying to make a mark. And then in the second concerto, I don't know if this is going to sound cliche, but there's something about a maturity, though only written, a few years later. You find that there's like a depth that's maybe even something of nostalgia and a little more pain that exists in it. He was, 28 years old only when he wrote his second concerto, but there was still more. There was still more layers of the onion to peel back and expose. And I think the second concerto, which I think might be a lot of people's favorite, it really brings the first concerto to a different level. And I'm not comparing and saying that the first is not as good. I'm just saying that it's a time in one's life. And then, about 10 years later, he wrote the third concerto, which is possibly considered one of the hardest concertos to play. Physically, it's really one of the most virtuosic works. So maybe in some ways going back to the idea of a tool for him to expose his prowess, his great pianistic abilities to audiences. And then I, jump about 20 years later, 15, 20 years later, he's written his fourth concerto. And actually, the version that we're going to play is actually the final version is about 30 years after the third concerto in 1940 or so. And I tell you, it's one of the most joyous pieces. The last movement truly sounds like what we would remember as the Looney Tunes music. It's one of the most fun and playful and youthful. So in some ways, going back to pre-first concerto, 50 years earlier, and finding that light humor that he had all the way at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the fourth concerto for me is one of the most interesting. I think it's one of those pieces that if orchestras played it more often, we would know it, and we would love it. But it's so incredibly challenging for pianists, but also for orchestra. The virtuosity needed just from the very beginning of the fourth concerto all the way to the last movement, just wild.
I think that final movement sort of belies the image of Rachmaninoff as being stern and brooding.
Yes. Yeah, you have concertos, other movements, other symphonies that tend to be dark and mysterious, and some of it doomsday, some of it is romantic, over the top. But yes, this last movement of the fourth concerto, you're so smart to point that out, is the most youthful and joyous and lighthearted. And of course, isn't that funny that it's the last piece that he writes, the last concerto piece that he writes for piano and orchestra of his life.
Virginia Symphony conductor Eric Jacobsen talking about the Rachmaninoff Piano Concertos, which will be performed along with the Paganini Rhapsody as the Virginia Arts Festival and the Virginia Symphony present the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto Festival, beginning a week from today. Performances are Friday, October 20th at 7:30 p.m. at the Ferguson Center in Newport News. That concert holding the Concertos 1 and 3. Saturday, October 21st at 7:30 p.m. at Chrysler Hall, the Piano Concertos numbers 2 and 4, along with the Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini, will be presented. And Sunday, October 22nd at 2:30 p.m. at the Sandler Center in Virginia Beach, the Piano Concerto No. 3 and the Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. Tickets are available online for these concerts at vafest.org. vafest.org.